So this is the rest of the notes for the intro to quadrilateral. This is more applications. We did all the properties on the other video with our table here. And so these are just some of the applications, and they follow some of the same rules that we have seen with our other problems, in that we're looking for things that are equal or looking for things that add up to 360 or 180. Okay, so I'm looking here. All quadrilaterals add up to 360. So I have 100 and I have 100. If I have 3 out of the 4, I can take 360 minus the total of the other angles and get my leftover angle. Well, I know this adds up to 180, and this is 100 plus, it has to be 80. So your leftover angle there is 80, which would make this a parallelogram because the opposite angles are equal and the consecutive angles are supplementary. So I'm just going to make a note of some of that stuff as I go. Okay, so the same strategy here. 360, take away the 112 and the 68 and the 109. Because I have to have 4 angles adding up. And so when you subtract that total, this is 180, 290, or 287, 289. So 360 minus 289 leaves you with 71. So if you put that 71 in here, you notice 112 plus 68 is 180. 71 plus 109 is 180. These lines are parallel. This is a trapezoid. Doesn't look like it, because these don't add up to 180. Okay, so same kind of thing here. I'm looking for stuff that's equal. I don't know anything about these except they're quadrilaterals, or I'm looking for stuff that adds up to 360. So 95 plus 10x plus 80 plus 95 equals 360. Adding all 4 angles. I'm going to let you solve. Answers you can check in a little bit. You can solve it. The teacher, you can pause the video to let them solve if you're watching this when I'm not here. Same deal here. Don't forget your 90 plus 24x minus 1 plus 105 plus 94. Again, you have all your 4 angles. Please, when you're solving, combine like terms, get your x's together, get your numbers together before you try to solve, so you don't make algebra files like you did when you were 13. Okay? All right, next kind of problem here. If you want to pause while people solve, go ahead and pause it. Next kind of problem are the area questions. Okay, and so the formula for area is written on your formula sheet. It's also, we wrote it down on here. So basically you need to determine what the shape is and then find the area. All these in this section, we're starting out kind of easy, are either rectangles or parallelograms. Area is base times height. The whole key is that you learn this formula and when you first learn to multiply, but the whole key is that you find a base and a height that are right angles. So this case, 9.7 times 7 is the area. That's pretty straightforward. Don't just take and multiply numbers together. Area is the amount of space something fills up, not the perimeter. Okay, now here we have some extra information. And it's hard for people to understand this, but if you stood a parallelogram up, it would be a rectangle. If you stood this thing straight up, this would be 4, and this would be 9. This height, it's the same as a 4 by 9 rectangle. So you always have to have height at and we always tell people, remember this, the height has to be at a right angle, because if you're measuring your height, you're not going to stand at an angle and say, oh yeah, I'm 5'7" tall. Oh yeah, you're going to stand straight up. So height is always at a right angle with the ground, or the base in this case. This one doesn't have any extra information. I mean, these are pretty easy. You will not have ones this easy as we get going. Just don't pick 2 numbers and multiply them together. This would be 8 times 6 7 times 4.7. You get a pattern there really easy. 11 times 11. A rectangle works for a square. It's just two sides are the same when it's a square. Okay, so we have, those are pretty straightforward. All the units for area are units squared. So like this would be centimeters squared because it's centimeters times centimeters, centimeters to the second power. Now we're finding the missing measurement. Now we're working backwards a little bit. So we're given the area. Area is 32.4, and they want you to find the dimensions. Well, I know that the base is the question mark, whatever you call your x, and the height is 4. So 4h equals 32.4. Divide by 4, divide by 4, x equals 8.1. And you can always check it by taking 8.1 times 4, seeing if you get 32.4. Okay, so we're working backwards here. They're giving you the area. This is the ones where you have to be a little bit careful. They're pretty easy once you get going. And go ahead and pause in between any of the videos or any of the examples if it's going too fast. Okay, so area equals the question mark times the 5.3. I don't know this question mark, but I know the overall area is 58.3. You should never, ever make a mistake with a rectangle. Divide that, both sides, get your x. I'm not going to do 13 and 14. You can do those quickly, same kind of thing. Make sure that you don't just pick two numbers. Okay? All right, last application says each of these is a parallelogram. So what do we know about parallelograms? Well, we know opposite sides parallel, opposite sides congruent, opposite angles congruent, adjacent angles supplementary. So they're going to ask you questions that have to do with especially the congruent stuff and the supplementary. So two angles in a row are supplementary, opposite angles are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent. So I'm looking for stuff that is congruent, and I'm setting it equal to each other if it's congruent. Boom, congruent. These are too easy. I always make my own because later on, because duh. Okay? The only way you can screw this up is to add it up and equal 180. Opposite angles are congruent. Consecutive angles are supplementary. Now you could screw that up by setting them equal to each other, but you have to stop and pause any two angles in a row. So I know if this is 140, this is 40. So the other way, because that adds up to 180, the other way I could do this is to set 5x plus 5 equal to 40. It doesn't matter if you want to use that congruency, but if you're given a parallelogram, you're given lots and lots of stuff. Okay, so here is the notes page answers. You have those on your paper. Now you're going to work through the quadrilateral packet. If you need to go back to the computer to watch parts of this again, you may do that. You are going to work by yourself or with the person sitting next to you. We're not moving around the class. You can ask the teacher to come and check some of your work. They will have an answer key. I expect that you will behave maturely.